Good afternoon, my name is Charles Gilbert Kapsner. I'm the artist currently working on the large project monument for the Minnesota State Veterans Cemetery, which is located approximately 7 miles north of Little Falls, Minnesota. The big thing is, like, why did I take on something like this? Well, we must backtrack about 8 years to when I was approached by an old gentleman named Gordon Gerling, who is no longer with us, but Gordon had this dream. He had a vision to see some sort of monument in the committal hall that would pay homage to the men and women of the military, those who have served, are serving, and will serve. So in a nutshell, we go back to the beginnings of our history, 1775, and for me, the importance of why would I do something like this is, number one, I've always been a great lover of history, and for me, it was an opportunity to learn more about my own background, my country, and pay homage, again, like I said, to the men and women. And so for me, that is the most important thing, because I had to buy an incredibly new library of books on the American military. I am an old Luddite, I don't use computers, and so I have the old-fashioned way of researching. And for me, it was very exciting to have these large dinner table size or coffee table size books, I believe they call them, to go about and learn how to research the military. Obviously, over the course of my studies of history, whether it be ancient Greece, the Renaissance, or American history, I had that element down. But once I began researching out this project, it became very apparent to me that there are 5 branches of the military with 5 very distinct cultures, 5 different fraternities, sororities, whatever you may have. So that was the first thing I learned when it came to the research. Fortunately, I had a lot of assistance, whether it be from the Minnesota Historical Society with reenactors down in Minneapolis, St. Paul, or with the staff at the Minnesota Military Museum at Camp Ripley on the Army. And of course, Camp Ripley and my interest in the Army because of my father having served in World War II with the Persian Gulf Command, it was a great inspiration for me to also, honor my father. And when it came to the Navy, I was fortunate to have a retired Rear Admiral, Henry McKinney, help me out, along with Ray Stump, who became the spirit and the guiding light of the Navy painting. When it came to the Coast Guard, I was very fortunate to have had a session with Dr. Earl Potter, who reviewed my composition, gave me some great pointers, stayed in touch about that, and he also was the keynote speaker at the unveiling of the Coast Guard painting back on February 6th. So fortunately, I've had great sources, great help. I have come into contact with many, many different individuals, and for me also, I'm not a veteran, and I feel really honored that the veterans and the different organizations have embraced me during this project. The friendships that I've made as a result of this project and where it has led me over the course of the last 8 years has just been really remarkable. And we are not finished yet, so there's still a lot more to do, more things to learn about with the Marine Corps and then finally the Air Force. But the goal is for people to go in and look at these eventually 5 compositions and really go home with a sense of pride, appreciation for their country, their family. All of us are touched by this project no matter what, because of a father, an uncle, a brother, a cousin, a friend, whomever, someone has served in the military. So these are about all of our history and how we got to where we are today. I have to say that in the research, one of the hardest things to do is actually to edit, because when we go back to 1775, we're going back to the beginnings, and so it'd be like the Continental Army, the Continental Navy, the Continental Marine Corps. As a result, editing out these stories for me has been the biggest challenge, because we in our present time are going to think of the current involvements we have, Iraq, Afghanistan, back to Vietnam, Korea, World War II, possibly World War I, but it's that immediacy of our sense of history that people talk to me about. Well, why do you not have more of that? Well, we try to do as best we can, talking about different counterpoints with that in mind. However, remember, we're going back to 1775, and I'm hoping that this will instill an interest in people to actually research out more of their own backgrounds and what it is we're trying to say with this entire monument, because that's exactly what it is. A lot of times we look at large statues, buildings, plaques, whatever it might be, as monuments, but throughout history, painting has also served as a sense of monument, going back to the ancient Egyptians and how they would do things, looking to the Renaissance, to the papacy, even to the military. And history painting is actually one of the high keynote points of what a painter would aspire to do during his or her career. Right? You look at portraits, the figurative work, landscape, and all that. But to have the opportunity to talk about something as magnificent as what this is, because when everything is said and done, it will have taken me probably 8 to 10 years to do and complete this. So that's a huge part of my life that has been dedicated to this single project, which is really being done for everybody. So I'm the catalyst, I'm the guy that can do the painting, but it's not for me, it's for the appreciation of the families that go to that committal hall when they're there with the last minute with their loved one, and the impact it has on them, that they all can go away with something very positive. And that's why we're doing this. And it is going to be a key destination place for people as they drive by Little Falls, Minnesota, which is Minnesota. Just because it's north of Little Falls doesn't mean it's not part of St. Cloud, part of Brainerd, part of Minneapolis, part of the state. And to quote Rear Admiral Henry McKinney when he was our keynote speaker 4.5 years ago, he said that this monument will serve as a great reminder not only for central Minnesota, but the nation itself. These words coming from Admiral Henry McKinney are very important because for the last 7 years after he retired from the Navy, he served as president and CEO of the Naval Memorial Foundation Museum in Washington, D.C. So Admiral McKinney traveled the country, saw monuments of many, many different sorts. In addition, he did quote and say that this is a very unique approach to doing a monument like this. And I think with that said and done, that pretty much is why we need this help.